Welcome back to The Wisdom Within Workforce Analytics and Business Intelligence, and the conclusion of our panel discussion with leading experts in the fields of workforce analytics and planning. As the discussion wraps up, our experts talk about measuring return on investment in workforce analytics, which tools can help you drill down into your data, and the importance of making sure your data is clean.
So, smart bets. You've got to make sure that you get a payoff down the road. That definitely takes us to return on investment. And how do you look at return on investment? Scott, when you're talking to your clients or the industry as a whole, can you talk about what some of those return on investment elements are? What are people looking for? How do they measure it?
So the drivers of a model, like an ROI model, that we see include some are intangible and some are intangible, but I mentioned overhead and IT. Classically, IT's been asked to do a lot of this crunching of numbers in the past, and that's very expensive and time intensive and not really what they want to do. So that could be a component that could be considered an ROI model. The intangibles could conceivably be, again, the inability to get the decision and then make the right decision. What could that cost? But then, we see drivers, again, back to overhead of staff. Can we lower the overhead of the analyst groups? I mentioned earlier, again, a very large nationally known video chain that was spending millions of dollars in just producing reports, the cost of production of reports, and can that go away? So those are some drivers that we see that can be added into a model that hopefully can demonstrate, and the speed of getting the data, that can demonstrate the return on investing in business intelligence.
Doug, what about you?
Yeah, I think the overhead piece of it's a big piece of it. I think the other piece, at least for us, is you look at things like turnover and the cost of turnover, speed to hire, how long it takes to get people into the organization. Those are direct costs of either having no one in the role, having the wrong person in the role, having to backfill the role. How does that tie into the competencies? Do we have good career progression, a happy workforce? Do we have succession planning in place? All that ties into really how quickly that you can manage your business. Do you have the right people doing the right things in the organization? And all that has a trickle-down effect on the economies of the business throughout the firm.
Great point. Like to your succession component, how much does it cost you to leave that CFO position empty because you didn't have somebody queued up? How many analyst calls, if you're public, do you wind up having a pinch hitter in there, and what would that kind of cost be? So,
we've had retailers, customers are retailers, and they actually calculated the cost of having a store manager position open for a period of time, and they knew how much it cost them down to the day. And so then there's an impetus for succession planning and our ROI model for putting in succession planning and proper talent management to grow your workforce from within. And I agree with Scott and Doug that there's a tactical savings, there's a tactical ROI that you can achieve by automating the processes you're doing now. They're probably very workforce intensive, labor intensive, but also they may not be granular enough. So, the thought of trying to get analytics for everything you want to measure, in this case of workforce, it could be every manager's attrition rate. That may be prohibitive to do it manually. So, if you can automate it, then you can bring down those costs. There's other factors that bring to bear immediately with workforce analytics. Attrition. If you can bring down attrition, then the cost of replacing a manager or even a contributor is very significant. So even a fractional reduction in attrition targeted within the company could save significant dollars. I mean, I think the cost of the automation is insignificant compared with the savings. But the biggest savings you can have, and I think the thing that's probably the most exciting, is the strategic return on investment you can have, especially with workforce analytics, but certainly with business analytics as well. Picking the right product, the right price, and the right approach to marketing it. With workforce analytics, it's around workforce planning, making sure you're going to have the right talents in the future, and also, can you differentiate your workforce to be more competitive than everyone else in the marketplace, and you have a strategy to differentiate that workforce. Perhaps you're going to be the leader in customer service, so you can look for profiles of your employees that are best at that and start recruiting to match that profile. So those are some examples, but the list is quite extensive.
So as a CEO, I'll throw myself and other CEOs under the bus. So it's right here. We have, business attention deficit disorder. It's true, and it's even if we can focus on some things, we're not always allowed to have the time to dive into things. So one month I might look at the numbers at the very high level, and then the next month when some event has occurred and I know I must dedicate time, then I need to drill in. So at one point I might need to just say, give me the pretty pie chart and I'll make sure I know, or give me the trend line so I can make some assumptions. But when I want to drill down in, I want to drill down in. I want to know who was that, what were the real numbers, or what territory was that in. Is that what analytics tools and BI tools are here to help with, is to give me the high level or help me drill down in? Scott?
Sure. I mean, I think, yes, that's absolutely the case. It's physically impossible to just manage the amount of data that we have coming in every day, and with the time concerns and limitations. So the ability to understand a business and take those drivers and bring them to the very top and have those starting points, the KPIs of your business, your area of expertise, and then being able to drill in terms like slicing and dicing of data, right? Once you start somewhere, you've got a question, can I go and what if this or that, drill down into it. So that's absolutely the value of an analytics system. And that's how you get to the results and down to the granular level. Hopefully that's driving that, and to make some changes quickly.
Doug, when you have meetings with your business leaders, do you find there might be a number that just floats for a long time and then all of a sudden it's the hotbed and you're paying attention to retention or something like that? Is that?
Yeah, I think, just to piggyback on the comment that Scott made, I think a good business analytical tool leaves it up to the end user what they want and what information they want out of the system. I'm very granular in wanting data and information, so I'm one that will click 2 or 3 levels of the tree down to get to that raw data. And I'm starting to see more and more managers going into that. And I think to your point there, that the business change and evolves at such a rapid pace. It's retention today, it's succession planning tomorrow, it's competitive compensation in the marketplace next Monday, then we have a downsizing. So it's, do you have, which people do you pick, which people you don't? So it's having all the different pieces of that to get into. Right now for our organization, there's a big focus, and one of the key HR initiatives for this year was complete global transparency in the compensation packages. So what is everybody making? Where are they? Who are they? Where are they? What do they do? What do they make? And as we start to get into country by country, they've got different compensation packages. So you've got base compensation, bonuses, profit sharing, fringe benefits, all that, being able to pull that information in. So for us, that's one of the hot topics. And then retention and turnover, because I think companies today are managing just at a bare minimum of people in the organization. It's, you lose one person, now all of a sudden you're starting to scramble, where maybe 10 years ago you had a little bit of redundancy built in. And I think that's always a hot button of obtaining and retaining the right employees.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great question, because when decision makers see an analytic, they may not believe it. Certainly if the number's not what they expected, perhaps it throws something in a negative light, then it has to be auditable. They need to be able to verify how that data got calculated. So having that complete transparency, be able to drill into what the source data is, workforce is people, to see what is underneath that data is very important. And also understanding which systems did it come from and what was the calculation you used. And so by making it transparent to the decision maker, then they start believing that data. And then they can actually make actions on it. If you can't have them, they won't take action unless they really believe it's a call to action.
Okay, so, and sometimes it takes the underlying data to prove it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, it's got to be there.
Well, that was back to your point earlier that you made about it's just not a snapshot of one particular piece of data.
Yeah.
It's what are all the other surrounding pieces of information there, how granular
Yeah.
do you want to be, and then tie the predictive piece to the back end of that
Yeah.
and say, if it continues, here's where we think we're going to
This is
be
what's gonna happen.
3, 6, 12 months
Yeah,
from now.
it's evidence of fact-based decision making, and you've got to be able to provide the facts.
There's also a little, I guess, dirty little secret that folks find out the hard way. If you are not watching or measuring your business using tools like you've been referring to, you don't even really know what you're measuring or what you're storing, and you might not be collecting the right data. So once you have a tool that you put in place, once you've decided what you're trying to measure, what you're trying to, how you're trying to perform, what you'll probably find out is that you're not actually picking up on all the points in your organization that you want to support. And so a lot of times organizations go back and clean their data, or they'll go back and find more things they can support, manage, measure, whatever. And that's, I guess, part of the, full life cycle of analytic tools, so that they, again, get better every year at what they're doing. So.
My favorite story to that is my mom, if one of us kids were moping about something and say, oh, I can't do X, Y, Z, or I haven't learned how to do, ABC, and her quip was always, well, you can't start any younger, and the same thing goes for businesses. Sometimes they gripe and they moan about, oh, we can't measure this, or we can't get this report because we don't have the data, and it's like, stop, enough already. You can't start any younger. Figure out what it is that you're missing and start now with the intention of moving forward. And in talking at the same OHUG conference that Doug was referring to, one of my important messages to that audience, because a lot of them were the HRIS managers, or they were people involved in making the data systems work, those transactional systems, is make sure you explain to people why they need to capture certain pieces of data. Because if you explain why they're going to need it down the road, or who is going to need it because of these types of decisions, you're a lot more likely to get more complete data collection than if you just wait and then say, oh, or when you're designing it, figure out what's the most important data that you're going to need so that you can report on it. And get that on that front screen. Don't bury it deep down into your data collection, because business intelligence, workforce intelligence is, if you're looking at the analytics, it's only as important or only as impactful as the data that you've been able to collect.
Visit Acquire.com for more wisdom about workforce analytics and business intelligence.